It all began on a Friday night. You know, the kind where your friends drag you out because, let's face it, staying in and binge-watching Netflix wasn't exactly curing my relationship woes. Jake, my boyfriend, had been in a relationship with his work for months now. If I had to compete with his laptop one more night, I was going to scream. So, I did what any self-respecting woman in my position would do. I put on my favorite dress. You know the one, the black one that clings in all the right places. Yeah, that one. The bar was alive with energy, the kind that promises good times and bad decisions. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and people were laughing and dancing like it was the end of the world. My friends and I claimed a spot near the bar, and I wasted no time ordering a cocktail. A girl's got to take the edge off somehow, right? Sipping my drink, I scanned the room, pretending I wasn't looking for attention. But let's be real, I totally was. And then I saw him. A man across the room with eyes that seemed to pierce through the crowd, locking onto mine. His gaze was so intense, it sent shivers down my spine. I mean, who looks at someone like that anymore? It was like a scene straight out of a cheesy romance novel. A slow song started playing, and my friends, ever the instigators, urged me to dance. I hesitated, glancing back at the guy who was still staring at me. And just like that, he started walking towards me, a confident smile on his face. "Care to dance?" he asked, his voice smooth as silk. I barely had time to think before I was in his arms, swaying to the music. It felt surreal. His name was Alex, and he had this charm that Jake had been missing for a long time. As we moved to the rhythm, I found myself getting lost in his eyes. The world around us faded, and it was just us, moving together like we had done this a million times before. After the dance, we returned to the bar, and Alex bought me another drink. We talked for hours, and he made me laugh, really laugh. Not the polite chuckles I'd been giving Jake lately. It felt amazing to be the center of someone's attention again. I felt a twinge of guilt for enjoying his company so much, but I quickly pushed it aside. Jake could have this too if he wasn't married to his job. The night grew more intimate, the air thick with a tension that was hard to ignore. Alex leaned in close, his lips brushing against my ear as he spoke. A thrill rushed through me, making my heart race. When he suggested we leave the bar and go somewhere quieter, every rational part of me screamed that it was a bad idea. But who was I kidding? I was already hooked. We ended up at a nearby hotel, and the moment we entered the room, the tension exploded into passion. It was raw and intense, a whirlwind of emotions and desires that I had almost forgotten existed. For that brief moment, I was free. Free from Jake, free from my mundane life, free from everything. In Alex's arms, I found a part of myself that had been lost for so long. It was a night I wouldn't forget, a night that would change everything. But as dawn approached, reality started to creep back in, and I couldn't help but wonder what the hell I had just done. I woke up in the hotel room, the morning light streaming in through the curtains, casting an unforgiving glare on the aftermath of my decisions. Alex was still asleep beside me, his chest rising and falling in a slow, peaceful rhythm. Reality hit me like a truck. What the hell had I done? Guilt washed over me, a wave so strong it nearly knocked me back into bed. Quietly, I dressed, slipping out of the room as if fleeing the scene of a crime. The weekend was a blur of avoidance tactics. Jake, oblivious as ever, didn't seem to notice my inner turmoil. I couldn't help but replay the night with Alex in my mind, each memory torn between regret and a sick thrill of excitement. I knew something had to give. Jake and I couldn't go on like this, but what was I supposed to do? By Monday, I was a mess. Work offered no escape, instead, it magnified my distractions. My coworker Sarah, ever perceptive, cornered me at lunch. "Hey, you okay? You seem off," she asked, her concern genuine. I caved. I told her about Jake's neglect, my desperation, and the night with Alex. Her eyes widened, but she stayed supportive. "You need to figure out what you really want," she said. Great advice, but easier said than done. That evening, Jake suggested we go out for dinner. A glimmer of hope sparked in me. Maybe this was our chance to reconnect. But no, he spent most of the time glued to his phone, discussing work as if I wasn't even there. I felt invisible. My thoughts drifted back to Alex, the way he looked at me, how he made me feel seen. Then, the texts started. Alex wanted to see me again. My heart raced every time my phone buzzed. Despite the guilt gnawing at me, I couldn't resist the pull. We arranged to meet the following weekend. I told myself it was just to get closure, but who was I kidding? Deep down, I knew it was more than that. Meeting Alex again felt like stepping into another world. We spent the day together, talking and laughing, and he made me feel alive. The mundane routine of my life with Jake faded into the background. With Alex, everything was vibrant, electric. It scared the hell out of me, but it also made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. I found myself falling for him, and that only made things more complicated. I returned home that night, my mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. There was Jake, my steady, reliable boyfriend who I had been with for years. And then there was Alex, who made me feel desired and alive. The affair was no longer just a fling. It was morphing into something deeper, something that threatened to unravel my entire life. Lying in bed beside Jake, I stared at the ceiling, torn between two worlds. How did I end up here, trapped between the comfort of the familiar and the allure of the unknown? One thing was clear. I couldn't keep straddling this line forever. Sooner or later, something had to give. Balancing my double life felt like juggling flaming swords while blindfolded. Every excuse, every lie I told Jake, piled up like a Jenga tower teetering on the brink of collapse. The guilt gnawed at me, but the passion with Alex? That was something else. It was intoxicating, like a drug I couldn't quit. Each stolen moment with him only deepened my feelings, making it harder to step away. One evening, Alex and I went out for dinner at this little restaurant tucked away in a quiet part of town. We snagged a cozy corner, the kind of spot that made you feel invisible to the world. He looked at me with such genuine interest and admiration, it was almost painful to remember how distant Jake had become. With Alex, I felt seen, like I mattered. At work, Sarah remained my rock. She warned me about the dangers of my affair. "You're playing with fire, girl," she'd say, her eyes wide with concern, but she got it. She understood why I was drawn to Alex, why I felt alive in his presence. Her support was a lifeline, keeping me from drowning in my sea of confusion and guilt. Jake, bless his oblivious heart, still had no clue, though occasionally, he'd raise an eyebrow at my increasingly flimsy excuses. I became a master planner, meticulously orchestrating my meetings with Alex like a covert spy on a mission. It felt like I was living two lives, each pulling me in different directions, threatening to tear me apart. Alex and I started delving into deeper conversations, peeling back layers of our lives outside the affair. He revealed he was single, but with a history of heartbreak that made him cautious. His vulnerability only made me fall harder, complicating everything even more. How was I supposed to walk away from someone who made me feel so alive? One weekend, Alex pulled a surprise, a spontaneous trip to a nearby beach. We spent the day basking in the sun, swimming, and sharing conversations that left me feeling more connected to him than ever. It was the perfect escape, a bubble where my double life didn't exist. But deep down, I knew it was temporary, a beautiful lie I couldn't sustain forever. Returning home from that perfect day, I found Jake waiting for me, more attentive than usual. Maybe he sensed something was off, or maybe my guilt was finally showing. He suggested we take a weekend trip together to reconnect. I agreed, feeling the walls of my double life closing in, threatening to crush me. As I lay in bed that night, my mind raced. How had I let things get so out of control? I was torn between two worlds, one where I was suffocating and another where I felt like I could breathe. Something had to give, but I was terrified of the fallout. Could I ever truly choose between the comfort of the familiar and the thrill of the unknown? The days leading up to our trip with Jake were a blur of nerves and anxiety. Each moment with Alex felt more precious, more stolen. The impending trip with Jake loomed over me like a dark cloud, a stark reminder of the choices I was avoiding. How much longer could I keep up this double life before everything came crashing down? Ever had that gut-wrenching feeling that you're walking a tightrope, and the safety net is full of holes? Yeah, that was me as Jake and I set off on our trip. Romantic getaway, my ass. My mind was miles away with Alex, while Jake and I struggled through forced conversations. It was painfully clear how distant we'd become. I felt like a stranger in my own relationship. Halfway through the trip, Jake confronted me about my recent behavior. The dreaded question came out of nowhere. Is there someone else? Panic surged through me, but somehow, I managed to deflect his suspicions with a tale of work stress. He seemed to buy it, but I could tell the seed of doubt was firmly planted. Great, just what I needed, a skeptical boyfriend. Back home, I rushed to see Alex, spilling everything about Jake's suspicions. Alex was supportive but also pragmatic. "We need to be more careful," he warned, his eyes full of concern. The tension between my two lives was growing unbearable, like being stretched on a medieval rack. I was fraying at the edges. Then, disaster struck. One evening, Jake found a text from Alex on my phone. It was innocuous enough, just a, "Hey, how are you?" But it was enough to spark Jake's curiosity. I scrambled to make up a story, but the doubt in his eyes was unmistakable. The walls were closing in, and my excuses were running thin. Sarah, ever the lifesaver, noticed my escalating anxiety. "Take some time off," she offered, covering for me at work. I gratefully accepted and spent more time with Alex, trying to clear my mind. But each meeting with him only made me realize how deep I was in. I was in over my head, drowning in my own deceit. Jake's behavior took a turn for the erratic. He started checking up on me more frequently, his questions dripping with suspicion. The tension was suffocating, a constant weight pressing down on me. I knew it was only a matter of time before everything exploded. One night, after a particularly brutal argument with Jake, I fled to Alex. He held me as I cried, his arms a sanctuary from the chaos. In that moment, the gravity of my situation hit me like a freight train. I had fallen hard for Alex, but I was teetering on the edge of losing everything. My life was a precarious balancing act, and I was running out of time. Lying in Alex's arms, I knew I couldn't keep this up. Something had to give, and soon. The cracks in my double life were widening, and it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down around me. What the hell was I going to do? It was only a matter of time before Jake's suspicions hit their boiling point. I could feel it in the way he looked at me, his eyes narrowing with every excuse I made. He started following me, lurking in the shadows, trying to catch me in a lie. Paranoia became my constant companion, a dark cloud hovering over every step I took. The stress was eating me alive, and I knew a decision was inevitable. But making it, that was the hard part. I met with Alex, my safe haven in this storm of chaos. I told him about Jake's behavior, the way he was practically hunting me. Alex suggested we take a break until things calmed down, but the thought of being away from him felt like tearing out a piece of my soul. Our affair had become my escape, my sanctuary. I wasn't ready to let that go. Then came the confrontation I had been dreading. Jake, armed with more evidence, cornered me with a hotel receipt from one of my rendezvous with Alex. Panic surged through me as I scrambled to lie my way out of it, but he wasn't buying any of it. His eyes were cold, hurt, and angry. The argument escalated until I couldn't take it anymore. I left the house in tears, my world crumbling around me. I went straight to Alex's place, desperate for refuge. He welcomed me with open arms, but his concern was evident. "You can't keep running," he warned gently, offering to help me figure things out. But reality was a beast I wasn't ready to face. With nowhere else to go, I stayed with Alex for a few days. It was a blissful escape, an illusion of safety and happiness. But the specter of my unresolved life loomed large. I knew I had to face Jake, to make a decision about our relationship. But the thought of confronting him terrified me to my core. Sarah, ever the vigilant friend, checked in on me regularly. She suggested I seek professional help to sort out my feelings. I agreed, realizing I needed an objective perspective to navigate the mess I had created. My emotions were a tangled web, and I was hopelessly ensnared. I scheduled a therapy session and started to unpack my emotions. The therapist, a calm, reassuring presence, helped me delve into the root of my unhappiness with Jake and why I was drawn to Alex. It was a painful process, confronting my own flaws and fears. But it was also the first step towards understanding my own needs, my own desires. With the therapist's guidance, a painful clarity began to emerge. I needed to be honest with Jake. I couldn't keep living this double life, deceiving him and myself. The thought of losing Alex was like a knife to the heart, but I knew I had to face the consequences of my actions. So there I was, standing at the edge of a precipice, the weight of my choices heavy on my shoulders. I had to confront Jake, to tear down the lies and face the fallout. It was the only way to reclaim my life, to find a path forward. My heart ached at the thought, but I knew it was time to step into the storm and face whatever came next. The moment I stepped through the door, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Jake was waiting, his eyes filled with a hurt that cut deeper than any words could. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a painful reminder of what I was about to do. This was it, the hardest conversation of my life. "I need to talk to you," I started, my voice trembling. He nodded, eyes fixed on me, bracing for impact. And then, I confessed everything. The feelings of neglect, the affair with Alex, every secret I had kept buried. The words spilled out in a painful rush, leaving me feeling raw and exposed. Jake's reaction was a storm of anger, sadness, and betrayal. He shouted, threw things, demanding to know why. "How could you?" he screamed, his voice cracking. I tried to explain, but my words felt woefully inadequate. The pain I had caused was etched on his face, a constant reminder of my guilt. After the initial explosion, Jake fell silent. The quiet was worse than the yelling, a heavy, oppressive silence that filled the room. Finally, he spoke, his voice eerily calm. "I need you to leave," he said. "I need time to figure things out." I nodded, numb, and packed a bag. As I left the house, the weight of my actions pressed down on me, suffocating and relentless. Had I made the right choice? Staying with Sarah, I continued therapy, trying to untangle the mess of my feelings. I missed Alex fiercely, but there was also this gnawing sense of responsibility to Jake. I had hurt him deeply, and I owed it to him to at least try and make amends. Whether we stayed together or not, I needed to confront the wreckage I had caused. A few days later, Jake and I met for coffee to discuss our next steps. He was calmer, but the pain was still there, a palpable undercurrent to our conversation. "Do you want to fix this?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "Or are you leaving me for him?" His question hung in the air, heavy and loaded. I was torn, but I knew I had to be honest. "I need time," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully. "But I want to try and repair our relationship." He nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes, but then his expression hardened. "If we're going to do this, you need to cut all ties with Alex." The ultimatum hit me like a punch to the gut. It was a heartbreaking decision, but I knew it was the only way forward. I arranged to meet Alex one last time to say goodbye. The farewell was emotional, filled with tears and regret. He understood my decision, but that didn't make it any easier. Leaving him felt like losing a part of myself, a piece of my heart that would always belong to him. But it was the right thing to do. It had to be. Returning home, Jake and I began the slow, painful process of rebuilding our relationship. Trust had been shattered, and the road to repair was fraught with doubt and hurt. There were days when the weight of it all seemed too much to bear, moments when I wondered if we were fooling ourselves. But we were committed to trying, to seeing if we could find our way back to each other. Every step forward was hard-won, a testament to our determination. The journey was far from over, but with each passing day, we inched closer to something resembling hope. And in that fragile hope, we found the strength to keep going. Healing is a funny thing. It sneaks up on you when you least expect it. Jake and I had hit rock bottom, but there was nowhere to go but up. So, we did what any broken couple would do. We started couples therapy. Fun times, right? It was challenging, to say the least. Therapy sessions forced us to confront our deepest fears, insecurities, and mistakes. But it also brought unexpected moments of understanding and connection, like finding a hidden gem in a pile of rubble. I continued my individual therapy because, let's face it, my issues needed their own spotlight. The therapist helped me untangle the mess of my thoughts, revealing patterns in my behavior that even I hadn't noticed. Why had I sought solace in Alex? It wasn't just about Jake's neglect, it was about my own fear of invisibility, of not mattering. Self-discovery is a hell of a trip. Jake and I started spending more time together, trying to reconnect. We went on dates, took weekend trips, and made a genuine effort to talk more. It wasn't always smooth. Sometimes it felt like trying to glue together a shattered vase, but slowly, we were making progress. Each step forward, no matter how small, felt like a victory. Sarah remained my rock. She was always there, cheering me on and reminding me of my strength. She saw the changes in me and in my relationship with Jake, and she believed we could make it work. Her friendship was a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge when I felt like giving up. One evening, Jake and I had a heart-to-heart conversation, the kind that leaves you raw but hopeful. We talked about our future, our hopes, and our fears. It was a turning point, a moment of genuine connection that reminded us why we had fallen in love in the first place. Amidst all the pain and betrayal, there was still a glimmer of the bond we once had. Alex remained in my thoughts, a bittersweet memory of what had been and what could have been. But I knew that my relationship with Jake was worth fighting for. The affair had been a wake-up call, a harsh lesson in what happens when communication breaks down. It was time to move forward and heal, even if it meant letting go of the past. As the months passed, Jake and I continued to rebuild our relationship. There were setbacks and moments of doubt, but we were committed to each other. The pain of the past was slowly being replaced by hope for the future. Each day brought us a little closer, a little stronger. We decided to renew our vows, a symbolic gesture of our commitment to each other. It was an emotional day, filled with tears and laughter. Standing before our friends and family, I knew that we had been through hell, but we had come out stronger on the other side. This was our fresh start, our chance to write a new chapter. As we exchanged vows, I felt a surge of love and gratitude. We had been tested, pushed to our limits, but we had emerged from the darkness together. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but we were ready to face it, hand in hand. In that moment, I realized that healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about embracing it, learning from it, and moving forward with a renewed sense of purpose. We had been broken, but we had also been rebuilt. And in that rebuilding, we had found something even stronger than before. So, here's to new beginnings, to the hard-won victories, and to the strength we found in each other. This was our story, messy and imperfect, but it was ours. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. Funny how life keeps moving forward, even after it feels like it's come to a crashing halt. Slowly but surely, Jake and I found our balance, rediscovering the joy in each other's company. Who knew all it took was nearly destroying everything to bring us closer? We made a conscious effort to communicate better, to actually talk and listen, prioritizing our relationship in a way we hadn't in years. Throwing myself into work became my new coping mechanism. It was a distraction, yes, but also a source of solace. Sarah and my coworkers provided unwavering support, keeping me grounded when I felt like drifting off into old habits. My career became a beacon of purpose and determination, driven by the lessons I had learned from my whirlwind affair and its aftermath. Jake and I decided to embrace new hobbies together, seeking activities that would allow us to bond and create fresh memories. Hiking, cooking classes, even starting a small garden. Who knew domestic bliss could be found in the dirt in the kitchen? Each shared experience was a tiny victory, a stitch in the fabric of our mending relationship. Our social circle shifted too. Some friends drifted away, unable to accept the changes in our relationship. It was tough, losing people we thought would always be there. But we also made new friends, ones who supported and understood our journey. Growth and change, it seemed, were the new constants in our lives. Jake and I finally decided to take that trip to Europe, a dream we had talked about for years but never actually pursued. It was a chance to escape, to explore new places, and create new memories away from the ghosts of our past. The trip became a turning point, a reminder of the love and adventure that had brought us together in the first place. During our trip, we visited a small town in Italy and stumbled upon a charming little cafe. Sitting there, enjoying the view and each other's company, I felt a sense of peace and contentment I hadn't experienced in years. It was a moment of pure happiness, a slice of tranquility that made all the struggles feel worth it. Returning home, we carried that sense of adventure and connection with us. We knew our relationship was a continuous journey, one that required constant effort and nurturing. The affair with Alex had been a dark chapter, but it had also led us to a place of growth and understanding. Maybe that was the silver lining in all of this. To find closure, I decided to write a letter to Alex. It wasn't easy, but it felt necessary. I thanked him for the role he had played in my life, acknowledging the impact without clinging to the past. It was time to let go, to focus on the future with Jake. In the end, the new normal wasn't about erasing the past or pretending it never happened. It was about embracing the lessons learned, growing from the pain, and moving forward with a renewed sense of purpose. Jake and I had been through hell, but we had come out stronger on the other side. And for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. As we continued our journey together, hand in hand, I knew that we were building something beautiful out of the wreckage. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And that was more than enough. If you had told me a year ago that Jake and I would be sitting down to discuss our long-term goals and dreams, I would have laughed in your face. But there we were, nestled on our worn-out couch, planning a future built on the lessons of our tumultuous past. Starting a family, buying a house, continuing to grow together, it all felt so surreal, yet so perfectly right. Our relationship wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real and strong. We had learned to navigate the ups and downs, to communicate openly and honestly. The scars from our past were still there, reminders of the pain we had endured, but they were healing. Slowly but surely, we were creating a life together that was richer and more meaningful than ever before. One evening, Jake surprised me with a heartfelt letter. Seriously, who writes letters anymore? But there it was, a piece of paper filled with his feelings, hopes, and love for me. It was a touching gesture, a reminder of the depth of his commitment and the strength of our bond. I cried like a baby, of course, but they were happy tears, the kind that wash away the remnants of old wounds. We celebrated our anniversary with a small party, inviting close friends and family. It was a joyful occasion, a testament to our journey and the love that had endured. As we danced together, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. We were on the right path, and it felt damn good. Sarah, my ever-loyal friend, continued to be a pillar of support. She celebrated our milestones and offered advice when needed. Her friendship was invaluable, a constant reminder of the importance of having a strong support system. She had seen me at my worst and still believed in me, which was nothing short of a miracle. Jake and I started volunteering together, giving back to the community. It was a way to strengthen our bond and find purpose beyond ourselves. The shared experience brought us even closer, reinforcing the sense of unity and partnership we had worked so hard to build. Adding a new member to our family was the icing on the cake. We adopted a dog, a playful and loving pup who brought joy and laughter into our home. Watching Jake play with our new furry friend was a sight to behold, a symbol of the new life we were building together, one filled with love, joy, and a bit of chaos. As the years passed, our relationship continued to evolve. We faced new challenges, but we faced them together. The affair with Alex became a distant memory, a chapter that had shaped us but did not define us. It was part of our story, but not the whole story. We had moved on, grown stronger, and found a deeper connection than ever before. Looking back, I realized that our journey had been painful and difficult, but it had also led to growth and understanding. Jake and I had come out stronger, more connected, and more in love than ever before. The road had been rocky, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. One quiet evening, we sat on our porch, watching the sunset. Jake took my hand and smiled. "We've come a long way," he said, his voice filled with a mix of pride and contentment. And he was right, we had come a long way. The road ahead was uncertain, but we were ready to face it together, stronger and more united than ever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over everything, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had weathered the storm and emerged stronger for it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together. And that, in itself, was the greatest victory of